Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Hold Up, a movie podcast, show where we take two movies from the previous century and one from the current century, and we ask, do they hold up? Do they measure up? That's a
It's
good
true.
question, and we're finding some surprise answers and sometimes contentious answers on this show. Um, anything can happen. Um, with me, well, I should say who I am first before I say who I'm with. I'm with Stupid, or you're with Stupid, right? Yeah. Um, I am your host, Davin, and with me always is World Mind. What's up, buddy?
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Not too
Uh,
bad. Last month we talked about environmentalism. We talked about the things that humans do to damage the earth. And, to try to lighten the mood after that, a couple weeks ago we talked about peace on earth and,
hmm hmm
goodwill towards men, you know, and women, except in the apartment, mostly just men in that one. Um,
yeah, well, we go from an
but
apartment to an animal house, if you will.
oh my, okay, yeah. I don't know. I don't think there's going to be a lot of disagreement. But tonight, our theme will be parties. So in
Just gotta get in
in
the New Year festivities.
yes, exactly. In the honor of the new year and Christmas parties, holidays parties, meeting up with friends and family, having perhaps a cocktail or a whiskey or two.
Just water for me tonight, sir.
Well, you got to stay hydrated. It's important when you're partying hard.
True.
So here we are. We have three movies ahead of us. We have Animal House from 1978. We have House Party from 1990 and Shithouse from 2020. Um, the
Applicable.
House connection sort of started as an accident, but I picked Animal House and then House Party, so why not make it three House Party movies? We'll get
Yeah, yeah.
real specific with it.
Get three little piggies with it, if you will.
Yeah. So should we just get ready? I think this might end up being our shortest episode ever because I don't know how much we can really talk about these movies, but we'll see.
To be
We have a lot
fair,
of screenshots.
I've got a fair amount of screenshots. I don't know how many of them we'll use, but I figured out if when you go through your explanations, I might pop a few up on screen, and I'd be like, oh yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to come prepared. I'd rather come prepared than unprepared. Also, I gotta say on the movie morsels tonight, it's pretty heavy on the first half and extremely light on the last half. So it's just yeah, I don't expect a long episode.
We've said that before. We'll see what happens. We set our record for length in the last one, talking about Christmas episodes. So really, anything can happen on this show. So in theater one, we have Animal House from 1978, starring John Belushi, Tim Matheson, Kevin Bacon, and Nova Scotia's own Donald Sutherland. Directed by John Landis, who we've seen on this show before. He was the director of An American Werewolf in London. So, yeah, we've had directors make several appearances on this show already in 6 episodes. So,
Yeah, yeah,
there's a
and you
connection.
know what? We've also talked about Kevin Bacon more than once on this show too. He was in the
Have we?
Guardians of the Galaxy special.
We didn't talk about that on this show.
No, we didn't. No, that's right. I guess
That
this
was on
production and Federation of Podcasts, it's been mentioned on the Mary Mater Marvel Society.
Mary Mater Marvel Society. Yes, that's the name. Yeah, we were talking about that last night. That was a fun show. That one ran a good 3 hours too, almost, I think. So, but that was the year-end review special. We had a lot to talk about. There were 9 entries into the MCU. But, that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about Animal House. You have a trailer for us, Murphy?
I do have a trailer for us. Good old fashioned, lengthy, almost tells it all trailer as the old ones do. So let's get into it.
This is Faber College in 1962. You know, 1962 had to be the best year of my life. I was a member of Delta Tau Chi. The Deltas. What a great bunch of guys. Bluto. Hoover.
Raise your right hand.
Pinto. Flounder.
Flounder.
D-Day. Boone.
It's not gonna be an orgy. It's a toga party.
And look at me in 62. The Otter. School was fun in those days. The girls. The party. The friendships. The girls. Of course, we had our problems.
Find me a way to revoke Delta's charter.
You're out. Finished at Faber, expelled. I want you off this campus at 9 o'clock Monday morning. Let's go!
National Lampoon's Animal House, starring John Belushi, Tim Matheson,
Would you go out with me?
and Donald Sutherland as Jennings.
Now, was Milton saying being bad is more fun than being good?
National Lampoon's Animal House.
So much in that trailer. It's literally like the last half.
My favorite part, actually, probably. But we'll talk about that later. So I'll get into the plot and the storytelling here. Um, this is not supposedly in 1962, where this is taking place. And we have Larry and Kent, who later will be called, Otter and Flounder?
Uh, Boone and no, yeah, it
Boone
is
and
Otter and
Flounder.
Flounder.
Oh,
Boone is the other main character that ends up. He's the guy. He's
Yeah.
the character that dates Kate Allen's character.
Yeah, and they're new students at Faber College, and they're looking to join a frat. And they fail trying to get into Omega. So Larry and Kent head over to Delta because Kent, I think it is, who can get them in. Yeah,
Yeah,
Kent is a legacy.
Flounders. Yeah,
Yeah.
Flounders the one. He's got legacy, family lineage, if you will.
But then, they also heard that it's the worst one.
Yeah, and that's proven to be the case for sure.
No, Otter's a different guy. I forget his name, actually, that guy. Anyway, the characters aren't too memorable in this, so that's not important. There's a couple memorable characters, so I will say this. I've seen this movie more than once, so it can't be all bad.
This is actually my first time watching it, to be honest. I've
Interesting.
always kind of, been like, oh, this is the one to
Pinto.
watch. I'm like, okay.
That's it.
Yeah, Pinto.
Pinto and Flounder. That's right. So Pinto and Flounder get in, they say, and Delta House is having a lot of trouble with Dean Warmer, played by Canadian actor John Vernon, who he was in a lot of things in my childhood. Like he was the villain. He's always the villain. He's kind of got those intense eyes and it's kind of very serious face and a good crazy voice. Like he was the voice of the Incredible Hulk in the '90s series. I'm pretty sure.
He was also
he
the
was in
voice
that.
of Falcone in Batman, or at least
Oh,
like
wow.
a Batman movie episode,
Mm.
something like that.
Oh, he's got a great voice, and he was also in Ernest Goes to the Camp, which was where I first knew him from, and I love that movie. He was
Yeah.
not a nice guy in that either. So he's always a good villain. So there's nothing wrong with him in this movie. Um, so he's getting sick of it, and he's trying to figure out a way to get rid of them. So he puts them on double secret probation, so that one more strike and he can get rid of the Deltas. So he wants them out of there. And Boone and Katie, his girlfriend, they're facing some problems because she wants him to be more serious and stop partying with these Delta boys. And then there's a big thing where Bluto and D-Day, who that's John Belushi, and D-Day, I don't know the actor that plays D-Day.
Bruce McGill. I was actually I didn't
Oh,
realize Bruce McGill was in this movie until I was like,
oh yeah, he's just
oh,
so
he
young.
plays the cool
Yeah.
guy. Yeah, he's so young and handsome, and I'm just
He's got.
like, wow. Bruce McGill looks so badass. I loved him. He was probably my favorite character in this movie, honestly.
This is not a bad movie. It has some issues, which we'll talk about. So their plan is they're going to steal the answers to the psychology midterm, but they end up stealing the wrong answers because Omega like set a trap for them and had them
Yeah,
steal the
they
wrong
they
answers.
set some dummy papers in a bin.
So basically, all their grades get really bad. So Warmer's like, "Aha! I can probably get rid of these guys now," and gives them like one final warning. It's just like if they don't clean up their act now, they're really in trouble. But they throw a wild toga party anyway, and Warmer's wife, whom Otter meets at the supermarket, ends up shacking up with Otter, which is funny. So now he's banging the dean's wife. And the
Comes in to
dean's
make a
really like
killer joke.
it's pretty funny how much of a nemesis this fraternity is to Dean. See, I kind of
Brutal.
like things about this movie. I just find that a lot of the humor doesn't hold up very well. But I'm jumping ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, and Pinto, he's making out with the mayor's daughter, and then the mayor ends up
Wait.
calling the dean about it, and he's just like, "This is all your fault," and he's just like, "How is it my fault?" That was pretty funny.
Oh god, yeah.
There's some funny
Oh,
things.
Pinto.
It's just like the attempts at humor, like the actual like jokes and bits are just like not that great, bit juvenile, and a bit
Yeah,
just frat boyish kind of stuff.
it's aged. It's aged humor.
So then the fellas they all go out and try to find some dates, and they go to a bar where Otis Day is playing. See, there's some good music in this because that soul band plays a couple tunes, and so that's pretty good. And there's a couple of good oldies in the background too. The music's not nearly as good as in the next film we're going to talk about, but the music's pretty good in this. So they go to the like they go to like yeah, so it's basically a black bar, and they're like the only white people there, so they get kind of nervous. And then these guys come up to like the table. They're just like, "Can we dance with your dates?" And it's like, "Oh, absolutely." And then they just like immediately go running out of there, like their life depended on it, and and crash into three cars getting out of the parking lot. That seemed a bit crazy and overkill uh, reaction on their part. I think they were just more interested in their dates.
Yeah,
So,
that broke down, but yeah.
yeah. They end up luring Otter into a hotel and beating him up, and then Warmer expels Delta, and then they want to get the revenge. Yeah, yeah. And so they put an old car into the parade float because it's like the homecoming parade, and that
They
ends up
kind
just
of
being
actually just trash the whole parade, really.
yeah. They basically just trash it, and then there's like a few. So that's basically the plot. The plots of these party movies aren't gonna take a long time to go through. So
Paper thin.
that's pretty much it. So Murphy, how did you feel about the plot and storytelling in this?
I mean, I would like to know exactly, I guess, if there was a solid plot or storytelling to this, because I mean, there was paper thin and the best setup. Like, yes, these guys were going to get Delta, but they essentially get set up in the Delta Party, and they're all just they're all anarchists at heart, and they're just like, well, we're going out with a smile. Hey, Sam, and they're just having outlandish parties and getting themselves into further trouble. And some of the things that they do throughout this movie, I kind of had an issue with, like
Me too.
particularly like
Like, the jokes are
er,
very
yeah,
misogynistic
this
and
one.
not funny. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
that one.
the whole Blutowski like climbing a ladder and peeping on the girls and like loudly clamoring along the rails, and like these girls just don't seem to notice it. Like, of course, this is a National Lampoon's movie, but like,
Which I find,
you
honestly,
know,
National Lampoon's movies rarely hold up for me. Yeah.
I mean, out of all the national, like
Product of their
I've grown up watching them, and I've always been a fan of them. I love, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon's School Trip. Um, I do generally like National Lampoon movies, but this one wasn't holding up, and I think it's just because it's very of our parents' age, you know. Um,
Like, he does something
it
even
was
worse. Like, that's one thing John Belushi's character does. But later on, at the end there, during the parade, he ends up, like, basically kidnapping this girl. He just
Yeah,
throws her screaming into his car and, like, smiles at the camera kind of and drives away. It's like, what just happened? Did he just
yeah, and he
kidnap
drives
her?
away, and it's like he becomes a senator, and she marries him apparently. Like yeah, like that's the one thing I did kind of enjoy is at the end of the movie they had these sort of like end bits,
Catching up there.
Daniel Simpson Days 63, whereabouts unknown. Barbara Sue Jansen 63 tour guide, Universal Studios Hollywood. Apparently, if you went to Universal Studios and said,
Yeah.
I'm asking for Barb or something like that, they would give you
Uh,
like a free discount or a free ticket. Boone and Katie married. Okay, this scene bugged me. All right, just before I continue on, just because this makes sense.
mhm.
Here's why this scene bugged me. Tell me something odd about.
Please, they're looting the Food King!
Come back and fight!
No prisoners!
So they just she saves him from the cops, and he stops and he looks at her, and I feel like they just cut out a scene where they were gonna have like a reconciling talk, because earlier in the film, uh, he catches her cheating with Donald Sutherland, and they don't really talk about that at any point after that moment. He just kind of goes on his like chaos spree, and then they cut Belushi's yelling crazy, and now they're making out all of a sudden. It's like it was such a weird cut. It stood out so wrong to me. I don't know why they chose to do that. Um, you know, I don't know. It was weird, but yeah, they got Kent Dorfman, sensitivity trainer, encounter groups of Cleveland Incorporated. Eric Stratton, gynecologist. I don't think this guy should be a gynecologist, but Eric Stratton. Damn glad to meet you. Probably one of my favorite lines. Lawrence Kroger, editor, National Lampoon magazine. Don't know how he's not on a watch list. Greg Lee Marmalard, 63, Nixon White House aide, raped in prison in 74. Don't know why they needed to put that in there.
Oh my God.
Douglas Niedermeyer, 63, killed in Vietnam by his own troops. That one I laughed at. Also,
Yeah.
the scene where he like pulls out like an Enfield, loads it, aims it at this man, shoots with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people behind him, hits the glass bottle, which 1, 2, 3 people are directly behind that glass bottle. Those people are dead. He
Yeah, it
murdered
was a bit
people.
ridiculous. He did.
Niedermeyer killed innocent people that day, and
He
nobody's
did.
talking about it.
And John Belushi
What,
kidnapped a woman, and no one's talking about that.
62 was a wild time. Also, I noticed
It
this
was a wild
little
time.
tidbit in the chaos, between Kevin Bacon freaking out.
Oh, yes, the
Uh,
young Kevin Bacon.
Such a baby face. Apparently, it's his first role. Um, there's a scene where Flounder goes to get a bunch of marbles, and he throws the marbles onto the street to trip up the ROTC guys. And if you look carefully, they're gumballs.
Yeah, they sure are. But then that other shot, they weren't. They were marbles in that shot.
No, yeah, it starts with marbles, and then like the
Yeah.
next shot is them falling on gumballs.
Gumballs are
I mean,
cheaper.
cheaper and probably easier on the back.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, like there was a bunch of like fun little scenes in throughout this film. Uh like just like the Belushi intro alone, I thought was pretty good. Um
I don't know, Larry. I don't think you're trying very hard.
I hate this.
Look, no sweat. My brother Fred was a Delta. That makes me a legacy. They gotta take me. It's like their law. Don't worry, I'll put in a good word for you.
Great. I heard Delta's the worst house on campus.
just pissing on their
Excuse me, sir, is
shoes.
this the Delta house?
Sure. Come on in.
For the most
like
part, though,
it-
this movie wastes the talents of John Belushi.
Well, the reason why they wasted the talents of they didn't really waste the talents of John Belushi. It's just they didn't. He was really giving it his all because he thought it could sort of like revive his career. It was during the point in his time when he was like going sober. He was a hard sober, trying to stay sober during the filming of this movie, which is like, wow, that must have been very hard for him. And because he was staying sober throughout the filming, he was also doing Saturday Night Live. So he was flying between New York and Oregon to film the movie, and they were also keeping him. So he wasn't as available throughout the filming of this film. So they could only use him to a spare amount. And the amounts they use him is pretty much slapstick buffoonery, sort of grossness, if you will. But one of my favorite scenes, I think, was this one.
Thank you, God.
That scene made me laugh so hard. Thank you, God.
My favorite scene was in the trailer, actually, which was Donald Sutherland just teaching his class. And he
Oh,
thinks he said
really?
something very profound, but what's going to be also very interesting to the students, because he's just like, is Milton telling us that it's better or more fun to be bad? And he's like, and like no one's paying attention. He's just like, and then
I
he's
think
just
another.
like, I need some papers from some of you, and they like walk out of the class. He's just like, this is my job. Like, pay attention to me. Yeah, I
My
like
other
Donald
favorite
Sutherland.
scene, I would have to say, is the introduction to D-Day and Eric Stratton consecutively.
Hi, my name is Kent Dorfman.
Cracks a beer.
Eric Stratton, Rush Chairman. Damn glad to meet you. D-Day! Hi, Eric Stratton, Rush Chairman. Damn glad to meet you.
I'm glad to meet you.
Hi, that was Eric Stratton, Rush Chairman. He was damn glad to meet you.
Oh, Larry, good. I see you've met D-Day. Good, you're having a nice time. It's good, good. Hey, Eric Stratton, Rush Chairman. Damn glad to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice tie.
Damn glad to meet you. I'm gonna start saying that to people. Chris Murphy, damn glad to meet you.
Yeah, I'm glad to meet you. Yeah, I like it. That wasn't bad. This movie's not bad. It's not bad. It's just
It's
like
not
it's
bad, but
not
it's
great.
aged to a great. It's not
It has
great, you
aged.
know.
I can see
One
how
of
it would
the
have been quite good in its day.
yeah, like um,
Well,
yeah.
let's
There's
move
only a
on to
couple scenes that really got
performances.
me funny.
For,
Um,
for the performances, like I say, Belushi was kind of wasted, but he was good at what he did. Like when he walks down the stairs and smashes Buddy's guitar because he's just singing, "I'll bring my love a flower," and he's just like he can't handle it. And he just smashes Buddy's guitar up and hands it back to him. Just like, sorry,
sorry.
I just couldn't help.
Yeah, I got some tasty morsels about that guitar smashing thing. I think honestly, for me,
Did he
it's
get a splinter? Did he get some splinters?
oh, it's kind of no. I think for me, the one that really stood out the most was Mark Metcalf as Doug Niedermeyer.
Hmm.
Um, he was just so kind of iconic in like how angry he was. That and you know, Kate Allen, you know, her performance was pretty solid. Like she actually kind of gave some gravitas to the movie, if anything. Considering the whole thing's lampoonish and such, but like,
Those two outacted the rest of them. Those two right
yeah,
there.
yeah, those two right there, like that was like pure acting throughout this movie. You know, the others they were mostly just having fun and having a good time, and you know,
Yeah.
Like I think Mark Metcalf really fucking put on a good show. Apparently, when he read for the scene, he didn't know how to horse ride, but he learned shortly after
Oh,
he got hired. Yeah, he told them that he could, so he's like, "Yeah, screw it, I'm just gonna do this." One of the scenes that didn't make sense though was like this scene, the whole like grieving scene, where like he finds out a girl he's dating died, and then these two are just like, "Oh, that's so terrible. It's so terrible that you're dead. I know she's dead. You want to bang? Let's bang." You know, like they were so like quick. It was like, "What? Okay." You know, so you know, it's hard for me to say like out of the Delta squad there was any performance that stood up because they're you know I wanted to love Belushi more, but it was just like rambunctious cartoon monster and you know, D-Day, Mark McGill or Bruce McGill. He was probably Bruce McGill, D-Day, and Mark Metcalf as Niedermeyer there, and also
And
Dean
John
Lehman,
Vernon. Yeah,
John
exactly.
Vernon. Yeah. Sorry, I just got my cat on my lap
Yeah.
and it's just fur up in my face right now. Ha.
I think oh, Sam says this is a fantastic movie. Sam, are you just saying that because there's all the boobs? There's a lot of boobs in this
there's
movie. But like, you know what?
okay, so
And I'm gonna talk about it later. There's tons of boobs in this, but none
but
of it
there's
is sex.
also
It's all just
13-year-old
creepy
boob.
and weird. But
Like I don't okay, what version did you
it,
watch? Because like I watched like an original cut version, not realizing that like the mayor's daughter was going to be like, I'm 13. You know, apparently the actress at the time was 18, but you know, she drops that whole bomb that
oh yeah,
like the
it's
jailbait
disturbing.
bomb. It's like
Like I
this,
don't.
like I'm watching this and I'm like, she's younger than she's letting on, you know?
This
And
movie was for unsavory young fellas, I'll tell you that much. It was
like
not
yes,
teaching good things.
it's not a great movie because it perpetuates the boys will be boys mentality
It
that
does.
is was very common back then, and it's
Yeah.
not a good moral to present to anybody at any point in their life. That being said, if you can um, recognize that, then maybe enjoy it in a bit kind of way. I don't know. It's for me. I
Like
don't know.
I
It
say,
was
I've seen it more than once. I liked it more as
yeah.
a teenager, I'll tell you that. I watch it now and I'm like, problematic. But back again, when I'm a teenager, it's like boobs. But like I said, none of it's alluring or sexy. House Party is a way sexier movie and there's no boobs.
Mm.
And it's
And a
just
better
like,
message about sex overall too.
oh,
Like,
it's yeah, man.
so we're gonna have lots of praise for
Well,
House Party when we get into that, but yeah,
the setting
setting
aesthetic.
this.
What do you think in this one?
Um,
To me, it was a bit drab to look at.
it
Like a
was,
product of
it
its time a
was.
bit, but
So
yeah,
there's
like
oh man, the things I found out about this film make a lot more sense, especially considering the whole drab look, the very simple, gritty look, the audio even. Apparently the audio engineer asked for a slightly larger budget to give it stereophonic sound, and they're just like, "Nah, you're good," and he just had to leave it
you're good.
mono. Yeah.
Mono's fine.
So he's just like, all right, sure, and like you can tell listening to this film because like the
It was a big
audio,
hit, though.
yeah,
So
no, it
this
was
was
a
a big
big
hit.
hit. It was a huge hit, and I'm gonna get into those numbers in a second here.
Okay,
But
well,
yeah,
let's
no,
do that then. With the setting
yeah,
and aesthetic was drab.
setting
Let's get into
aesthetic, I
some movie
thought
morsels
we're
now.
drabbing, yeah. So let's get into some movie morsels, shall we?
I think we should.
All right, Animal House, 1978. Now I gotta say, this is the larger portion of my movie morsels, so it's almost like a dinner because there's a lot on this, and I couldn't. I tried to whittle this down, so it's we got time to waste. Animal House, 1978. Dwayne Jesse's performance as Otis Day was so successful that he legally changed his name to Otis Day and subsequently toured and recorded with Otis Day and the Knights. The bass player in the band Otis Day and the Knights is the legendary but then unknown blues guitarist Robert Cray. Cray was just
Right.
instrumental
So good,
in
man.
getting the musicians together that appeared as the band.
Oh man, Robert Cray's a legend. Check it
Uh,
out, blues fans. If you're a blues fan like me, you already know that.
I figured some of these names might stand out to you. Donald Sutherland was so convinced of the movie's lack of potential that when offered a percent of the
He's an
gross,
actor.
yeah, yeah,
He's a real actor.
when offered a percent of the gross or a flat fee of
Oh,
$75,000 for his
see,
3 days' work, he took the
3 days.
upfront payment. Had he taken the gross percentage,
Yeah,
he would
it
have
did
been worth
well.
an additional $3 to $4 million.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
because he was the
yeah,
name. He was the only name. His
yeah.
his role is fairly small in this, but he's got billing and everything.
Yeah, he said it was one of the most fun films he's ever been on. During an A&E documentary on the 30th anniversary of the movie, it was revealed that when Bluto takes Charming Guy's guitar and smashes it, the scene was completely improvised from the script. The terrified reaction from the actors and actresses is genuine. The hole John Belushi makes in the wall with the guitar was the only physical damage incurred to the house during the entire production. Instead of repairing it, the fraternity placed a frame around the hole with an engraved brass tag to commemorate it.
It's one of the best scenes in the movie. It's the Donald Sutherland scene, and there's that guitar scene for me.
As this was Kevin Bacon's first role, when he went to the premiere, he wasn't allowed to sit with the rest of the cast because the ushers didn't believe he was in it. He had to sit in the back with everyone else.
Now he's the legendary Kevin Bacon.
That's true. He's a pure legend. He's not sitting in the back with everyone else these days.
Wow.
The actors who played the Deltas harassed the actors who played the Omegas off screen as well to keep up the feelings of animosity between the characters. Mark Metcalf changed his hotel room to the one above Bruce McGill's, where the Delta actors partied every night, so his anger at their noise would help him get into character.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. Honestly, when I was like going back and like, scanning through the movie and like reading these bits, it kind of made me appreciate the film a bit more. But like at first watch, I was like, During filming, John Belushi would often go to local nightclubs to check out the various bands. He was fascinated by a musician named Curtis Salgado. Salgado's sunglasses, harp playing, and the love of the blues inspired Belushi to form the Blues Brothers with fellow Saturday Night Live cast member Dan Aykroyd.
I give my love a Murphy that had no, it doesn't go to D there. I think I should have gone to C. Well,
Uh, the role of D-Day was actually written for Dan Aykroyd based off of his motorcycle-loving personality, according to John Landis. And producer Lorne Michaels threatened to fire Aykroyd if he took the role.
wow. Oh,
Yeah.
one of the baby's toys just went off. Ignore that, everyone. It's just a pink car singing. It'll stop momentarily. Continue, Murphy.
That's it. Well, certainly. Harold Ramis wrote the part of Boone, also known as Face, for himself to play, but John Landis felt Raymond was too old. Ramis was so disappointed that he refused to accept a smaller part Landis offered him. Ramis was 32. Peter Riegert, who eventually played Boone, was 29. So
Yeah,
that
all
would have
these
been a
guys were
30.
30. It's the same thing with
Yeah.
House, like back in the day, teenagers and young adults were played by 30, 35-year-olds.
But Harold Ramis being 32 and then being involved in the storyline with the mayor's daughter would have made it way too creepy.
Oh, yeah.
Way
Yeah,
too
it would have been
creepy.
bad.
It would have been so bad.
It was bad anyway. Any more
Producer
morsels
Ivan
there for us to
Reitman's.
chew on?
Yeah, just a few more. Producer Ivan Reitman's original choice for the roles of Boone and Otter were Bill Murray and Chevy Chase. However, Landis did not think Chase was right for the part and convinced him to star in Foul Play in 1978 instead by telling him that it was an ensemble film. The role went to Tim Matheson, who later starred with Chase in Fletch, 1985. Chase has said that he regrets not doing the film. The bottle of
Would have been
whiskey
a lot
that
better with Chevy Chase. Because the problem with this movie is like there's not a lot of actors. It's not a lot of good acting. But Chevy Chase was great.
the scene where
Dan Aykroyd,
Bluto,
come on.
the scene where the bottle of whiskey that Bluto chugs was actually iced tea. This was part of keeping Belushi away from alcohol and drugs. He was also excluded from the rest of the cast, staying at the Broadway Inn prior to the shoot. So yeah, him like chugging.
What a movie to do when you're trying to clean your act up, though. That is ridiculous.
Yeah. Also, his iconic college sweatshirt in the film was a gift from his younger brother Jim, who was an alma mater in Southern Illinois University of Carbondale.
And that university had shirts that just said college.
Apparently so. Which is thus like produced a fashion style for many to enjoy.
Pretty funny.
We've got oh god, there's so many. Oh yeah, the Lucky Boy. The Sean McCartan, who played the Lucky Boy, whose wish for a playmate magically comes true, went on to become a pastor at a local church in Cottage Grove, Oregon. A newspaper headline about his story announced "Lucky Boy still thanking God." I thought that was like the funniest. When looking for colleges to film at, the script was sent over to 250 schools. It was unanimously rejected because they all felt it was too raunchy. The president of the University of Oregon only allowed this movie to be filmed on that campus because he decided he did not know how to read screenplays. In 1967, he received the screenplay for a movie, but had denied its permission to film there. That movie was The Graduate from 1967. And he liked that movie so much that he decided he didn't want to miss another opportunity. So he allowed this film to be filmed on the University of Oregon campus. Once the crew showed up, he read the script and quickly regretted his choice. In response, he insisted that the college's name not be listed in the film's credits. But since then, the school's very happily and proud about the film being shot there.
Of course. That's pretty funny.
Okay, I'm gonna read 4 more. A sequel was planned that would take place during the 1967 Summer of Love and involved the Deltas reuniting with Otter's wedding. However, when More American Graffiti in 1979 bombed at the box office, Universal stalled the project. It was scrapped for good when John Belushi died in 1982. The movie concludes by describing each character's fate. Niedermeyer was killed in Vietnam by his own troops. In John Landis' segment of The Twilight Zone, the movie in 1983, some soldiers overheard expressing regret for killing Lieutenant Niedermeyer. When the film was released, John Landis, James Widows, who played Hoover, and Karen Allen, who played Katie, went on to a national promotional tour. Universal Pictures spent about $4.5 million promoting the film at selected college campuses and helped students organize their own toga parties. One such party at the University of Maryland attracted around 2,000 people, while students at the University of Wisconsin-Madison tried for a crowd of 10,000 people in a place in the Guinness Book of World Records. There's a lot of people wearing bed sheets in that day and age.
Yep.
John Landis and Bruce McGill staged a scene for reporters visiting the set where Landis pretended to be angry at Bruce for being difficult on set. Landis grabbed a breakaway pitcher and smashed it over McGill's head. He fell to the ground and pretended to be unconscious. The reporters were completely fooled, and when Landis asked McGill to get up, he refused to move.
That's pretty funny.
And yeah,
there's wacky times on this set.
I know, like wacky times. And we're going to get the final two here. Many first-run theatrical releases included shots of a topless Clarette after she unhooks her bra and passes out drunk. Later in the film, she admits that she's only 13. By the time home video became widespread, some American obscenity laws forbade showing minors nude in sexual situations, actual or depicted. The later term was meant to describe illicit composite images, but could also be constructed to mean acting. The actress was 18 at the time of filming, but when her character announced her age to be 13, a legally problematic situation arose, and as a result, her bare breasts are absent from early home use copies of the film. The original version of the movie was 2 hours and 15 minutes
kept it
long.
That way.
Yeah. The original version of the movie was 2 hours and 58 minutes long. Among the scenes deleted were more with Bluto, including a scene where a dishwasher, played by John DeLandis, tries to stop him from eating all the food and gets pulled across the table and thrown on the floor while Bluto says, "You don't fuck with the Eagles unless you know how to fly." And an extended version of the scene where Bluto pours mustard on himself and starts singing, "I'm the Mustard Man." And cinematography was by Charles Correll, edited by George Fawcett Jr., music by Elmer Bernstein, distributed by Universal Pictures on July 28th, 1978, 109 minutes long. The budget of this movie was $3 million. The return on investment for box office was $141.6 million.
It's a highly profitable movie.
I can't think of any movie that's more profitable than this for
what
they spent. Like, then that set up, and apparently that set up a lot of downfall for National Lampoon because it became so popular. A lot of the writers at National Lampoon got offered to write movies, and they found out they could make more money writing movies, and all those writers dipped off from National Lampoon to become movie writers to ultimately have their own careers ultimately fail. So it's like, as successful as this was for National Lampoon and everyone involved, it also was the downfall of National Lampoon, which is like ironic, in a sense. So yeah, movie morsels.
That's the final morsel.
That's
All
it.
right, very nice. Rewatchability. So here's the thing. Yes, it does have rewatchability because I've rewatched it a few times, and though I don't like it as much now as an adult, when I rewatched it as a teenager and young adult, in the rewatching style, it held up perfectly fine for me. So I think it does. If it's your bag, it's rewatchable.
I'm generally one to say, like, I'm not one to rewatch things in general, so it's pretty hard for me to say if something's rewatchable. That being said, I feel like this movie does have rewatchability to it because when I was again going through it earlier, there was things I was catching that I wasn't quite catching the first time, and those are like little visual jokes and gags and like stuff like that. There's like one where they're all like right before the chaos of the parade, they're all checking their watches, and most of them are all in sync except for John Belushi's, which is like completely opposite and wrong because it's broken more than likely. Just like little stuff like that I didn't quite catch on the first time around. So yeah, there's rewatchability in this for me.
But does it hold up?
No, it doesn't though. It's
I agree.
aged. It's
This is easily our best C movie, but it doesn't, man. It
yeah,
doesn't.
it's a
Like
C plus movie for sure.
C plus. We're B minus.
It's definitely a time capsule of
With
that
our C
age.
movies. Like it's better
Yeah,
than the Majestic I Heart Huckabees in the apartment. But you know what? The Majestic also like a C plus. Like, but you know.
I actually had one movie morsel that I
Okay.
forgot about. Just one final thing about just the time and age, more or less the reference, and I am having trouble finding it in my notes. So we'll just keep rolling. But it was about basically how this film was filmed. Oh yeah, one bit that was written in the original script but never filmed included a parade bus that was destroyed at the climax of the film. All right, sorry. The writers chose 1962 as a setting because they saw it as the last innocent year of America. And the homecoming parade that ends the film is occurring on November 21st, 1963, the day before President Kennedy's assassination. And one bit that they wrote out, included in the parade, there was a bust of John F. Kennedy, and his head on the float would have had an exit wound like the one he suffered when he was assassinated in November of 63. Landis cut the idea because he felt the tone of the gag was too offensive. So,
I don't know if it was funny either. Just that.
that's National Lampoon for you in the 60s, man. They didn't
Yeah.
quite give a fuck.
Well, this wasn't the 60s. This was the 70s, late 70s.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it was this the late 70s, and they were just
They're just pretending to be in 1962.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we agree. Yeah. We don't agree as
Yeah.
often. If you look, we mostly have B movies, which is when we disagree. But
Yeah, I
well, there
wasn't
we go.
sure if you were going to consider this one holding up or not, but I'm glad to see that you
And
also
like it's
feel this.
rewatchable. Like it's rewatchable. It's okay. It has some things, but I don't think it does hold up because because it's supposed to be a comedy. Like as a movie, it's kind of okay, but none of the humor really lands very often. The humor of it doesn't hold up, and it's a comedy. So there you have it.
Yeah. It's better
It's
in
hard
the
to.
bits if you.
Humor's hard to hold. It's the hardest thing to hold up because
Yes,
humor
it
is
is.
very zeitgeist of the time often.
Yeah, it's very subjective of the time for sure. Like if you're hip to the scene, if you will, you're gonna laugh
Mhm.
more at the jokes that are being presented at the time than you will potentially 30 years because you're just like, what are they talking about?
Let's move on to theater two.